The night was silent, broken only by the hum of engines from small cargo ships leaving the station. The human traveler, Marcus, had been wandering from one colony to another, searching for work, food, and maybe a little peace. He had no great plan in life, just the will to survive one day at a time. But fate had something else waiting for him. Marcus entered a hidden marketplace on the edge of the colony. The place was dim, filled with shadows, and most humans avoided it. Strange traders gathered there, some honest, some cruel, but all of them desperate. He kept his hood low and moved quietly, trying not to draw attention. That was when he heard a cry. It was not loud, but sharp enough to cut through the noise of bargaining voices. He turned his head and saw a small crowd gathered around a stage. Curiosity pulled him closer. When he looked, his heart froze. On the stage stood an alien woman. Her skin shimmered faintly under the poor light, a mix of pale silver and faint blue. Her eyes, wide with fear, searched the crowd as if begging for mercy. And then Marcus noticed. Her stomach, she was pregnant. The trader beside her shouted to the crowd, calling her a burden, saying she was of no use. Some laughed, some turned away. Others whispered about how she was too weak to work. Marcus clenched his fists. He had seen unfair things before, but something about this scene burned deep inside him. The woman stumbled, and the crowd laughed, louder. She hugged her arms around her belly, trying to shield the unborn children. That small act hit Marcus like a knife. She was alone, carrying not only her own life, but also the lives of the little ones inside her. He told himself to walk away. This was not his fight. He was just one man with no money, no power, no reason to risk anything. Yet his feet did not move. His eyes stayed locked on hers. And in that moment he saw the truth. Her eyes were not just filled with fear, but with hope. She was searching for someone, anyone who would care. The trader barked again, trying to lower the price, almost begging someone to take her away. Still, no hand was raised. Nobody wanted a pregnant alien woman. She was treated like nothing, like her life had no value. Marcus felt a storm inside. His heart pounded as memories of his own struggles came back. Times when he had been left alone, abandoned, treated as if he did not matter. He could not let this scene end the same way. Slowly, he stepped forward. The crowd noticed him and grew silent. The trader sneered, asking if he was truly interested. Marcus did not answer at first. He just looked at the alien woman again. She was trembling, her breath uneven, but in her eyes a spark lit up. For the first time that night, she saw someone willing to stand beside her. The trader mocked Marcus, calling him a fool. She is weak. She will cost you food, shelter, and rest. And when her young ones are born, they will only drag you down, further. Marcus stayed quiet, but inside, his decision was already made. He was not thinking about logic, about cost, or about the risk. He was thinking about humanity, about what it meant to be human. It meant standing up when others turned away. It meant protecting those who could not protect themselves. The trader shoved the woman forward. She nearly fell, but Marcus reached out and caught her. His hand rested gently on her arm, steadying her. She flinched at first, but then looked up into his face. He gave the smallest nod, and for the first time she breathed a little easier. The crowd began to whisper. Some laughed at the human who had stepped into a storm. Others shook their heads, saying he would regret this choice. But Marcus did not hear them anymore. All he saw was a frightened mother-to-be, and he knew he could not walk away. The trader spat on the ground, annoyed. Take her then. She is yours. But don't say I didn't warn you. She will break you. Marcus ignored his words. He placed his arm gently around the alien woman, guiding her away from the cruel stage. She leaned on him, weak from exhaustion. But each step forward was like a step toward freedom. As they disappeared into the narrow streets, Marcus's mind filled with questions. How would he protect her? How would he feed her? Where would they hide? He had no answers. Yet he also knew one thing with certainty: He had made the right choice. The night wind grew colder, carrying with it the voices of the market fading behind them. Marcus pulled his cloak tighter around her, shielding her from the chill. For the first time she whispered something, her voice fragile, almost broken. Why did you help me? Marcus paused for a moment, then replied in a steady voice, because no one else would. In that single line, a bond began to form, a bond that would grow into something larger than either of them could imagine. He did not know it yet, but years later, the children she carried would look at him with love and call him Father. And it all started here, in this unexpected encounter. The marketplace was fading behind them, but danger had not ended. Marcus could still feel the eyes of those who watched him take the alien woman away. Whispers followed him like shadows, some mocking, others filled with suspicion. He knew well that men who broke the rules in such places were rarely left in peace. The alien woman clung weakly to his arm, her steps uneven. She was light, too light, as though hunger had already stolen much of her strength. Her eyes darted around nervously, scanning every corner as if she expected someone to drag her back. Marcus whispered softly, "Keep moving. Stay close to me." As they entered a darker street, Marcus heard boots behind them. His body tensed. It was not just one pair, several. He did not turn around. He simply tightened his grip on her arm and quickened his pace. The woman felt his urgency and tried to match his steps, though her swollen belly made every movement difficult. Within moments, rough voices echoed. "Hey, human, stop there!" Marcus cursed under his breath. The traitor had sent guards. Of course, he would not simply let his property walk away. The value of a pregnant alien, even if low to some, was still value. The woman's breathing grew sharp. "They will take me back," she whispered in fear. Marcus shook his head. "Not while I'm alive." His words were firm, but inside, a storm of uncertainty raged. He had no weapon, no plan, only a fierce will not to abandon her. They turned, down a narrow alley, the smell of old metal and damp walls pressing around them. The shadows were heavy here, broken only by flickering lights above. Marcus pulled her behind a stack of empty crates. "Stay here. Don't move." She wanted to protest, but his eyes told her to trust him. He stepped out into the alley, waiting for the guards. 3 figures appeared, carrying short batons and glowing lamps. Their faces were hard, their boots pounding the ground with authority. "There he is," one barked. "Hand her over and we will let you walk away." Marcus lifted his chin. "She's not yours anymore." The men laughed coldly. "She is not yours either. Don't be a fool, human. She will drain you dry. Why throw your life away for her?" Marcus's fists clenched. He could almost hear his own heart pounding. Behind him, he knew the alien woman was listening, her hope resting on his choice. That thought alone gave him strength. When the first guard stepped forward, Marcus acted. He grabbed a metal rod lying against the wall and swung with all his force. The rod struck the guard's lamp, shattering it in a burst of sparks. Darkness swallowed the alley. The guards cursed, their lights flickering, their shouts filling the night. In the chaos, Marcus grabbed the woman's hand. "Run!" She stumbled forward, fear and desperation pushing her body to move faster than she thought possible. The two of them ran through twisting alleys, their footsteps echoing in the dark. Behind them, the guards shouted, chasing, but the shadows favored Marcus. He had lived in rough places before. He knew how to use darkness as a shield. At last, they burst out onto a quiet street. The woman gasped, her breath breaking, her body trembling. Marcus pulled her into another hiding place, an abandoned stairwell that led underground. He guided her down carefully until they reached a small hollow space beneath the colony streets. She collapsed against the wall, clutching her stomach, tears streaming down her face. Marcus knelt beside her, wiping sweat from his forehead. For the first time, silence surrounded them. The woman looked at him with wide, uncertain eyes. "Why? Why risk your life for me?" Her voice cracked, as if she could not believe what had just happened. Marcus stared at her for a long moment. The dim light revealed the sharp lines of her fear, but also the quiet strength beneath it. He answered simply, "Because you deserve to live, and so do your children." Her lips trembled. She pressed a hand gently to her belly, whispering in her own alien tongue. Marcus did not understand the words, but the way she spoke them told him they were words of gratitude, maybe even prayer. He leaned back against the cold wall, his body aching. He had no home to take her to, no food to offer, and no safe plan for tomorrow. Yet somehow none of that mattered in this moment. The choice had been made. He had rescued her, not just from the stage, but from the shadows of cruelty that had almost swallowed her. The woman shifted closer, her head lowering, as if in surrender to exhaustion. "What is your name?" she asked quietly. "Marcus," he replied. She closed her eyes for a second, then whispered, "I am Lyra." The sound of her name settled in the darkness like a fragile promise. Two strangers, bound by one desperate act, now shared the same path. The colony above still hunted them, and tomorrow would bring even greater trials. But tonight, in this shadowed refuge, Marcus knew one truth. He would not let her fall again. Far above, the lamps of the colony flickered on the rooftops, but down below, in the hidden stairwell, something far brighter had sparked, an unlikely bond that would grow stronger with every step they took together. And though Marcus did not yet know it, the children Lyra carried would one day call him Father. The underground stairwell gave them a few hours of safety, but Marcus knew it would not last. The guards would search every alley, every corner, and eventually they would find them. He needed a place where the alien woman, Lyra, and her unborn children could rest without fear. When dawn came, Marcus guided her carefully through the quieter side of the colony. He moved like a shadow, avoiding patrols and hiding whenever footsteps grew near. Lyra's steps were slow. Every few minutes she pressed a hand to her stomach, breathing hard. Marcus saw how weak she was, and it filled him with urgency. Finally, they reached the outskirts of the colony, where old buildings leaned against one another like forgotten bones. Most settlers avoided this area. It was too broken, too empty. For Marcus, it was perfect. He found an abandoned cabin half buried in dust, its door hanging crooked, its windows shattered. To most, it was useless. To him, it was shelter. He pushed the door open, leading Lyra inside. Dust swirled around them, and the air was heavy with the smell of rust. Still, the walls stood, and the roof did not leak. Marcus searched the rooms, quickly. The place was small, but it was theirs now. Lyra sank onto a broken chair, her body trembling. "It is safe?" she asked softly. "For now," Marcus answered. He knelt in front of her, looking at her pale face. "You need food and rest. I will find something." She caught his hand suddenly, her silver blue eyes filled with fear. "They will take me if you leave." Marcus shook his head. "I'll be back, I promise." He pressed her hand gently, then stood. His chest was tight, but he knew he had no choice. He scavenged through nearby ruins, searching for anything useful. By luck, he found a half-working stove, a few containers of water, and old blankets covered in dust. From the market outskirts, he stole dried bread and a handful of root vegetables, hiding them under his cloak. Every step back toward the cabin, he wondered if guards had found Lyra, if she was waiting in terror. But when he pushed the door open, she was still there, sitting quietly, her hand stroking her stomach as if to comfort the lives within. When she saw the food, her lips trembled. "For me?" "For us," Marcus said, setting it down. He boiled the roots in water, turning them into a weak soup. The smell filled the room, and for the first time warmth replaced fear. As she ate, Marcus watched silently. He could see how thin she was, how her body had been starved. Every spoonful seemed to bring back a little of her strength. She whispered something in her language, perhaps thanks, perhaps prayer. He did not ask. When night came, he spread the blankets on the floor. He gave her the thicker one and took the thin one for himself. She tried to protest, but he raised a hand. You need it more. That night, the silence was different. No shouting, no cruel laughter, no guards. Only the soft sound of her breathing and the faint hum of wind against the broken windows. Marcus lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Questions filled his mind. How long could they hide here? How would he keep her safe when the children came? He had never cared for anyone but himself before. Now 2 lives he had never met already depended on him. The next days were filled with struggle. Marcus scavenged every corner of the ruined district. He fixed the stove, patched holes in the roof, and found scraps of wood to strengthen the door. He risked trips to the market for food, always keeping his hood low, always fearing someone would recognize him. Lyra grew stronger, though her body still carried the weight of fear. She spoke little, but slowly she began to trust. She would ask about Marcus's past, and he told her pieces, how he had once worked on cargo ships, how he had lost his family, how wandering had become his only life. She listened quietly, then whispered, "You are not alone now." Her words sank deep into him. He looked at her, sitting in the dim light, her hand always resting on her stomach, and he realized something. He had saved her that night, but she was saving him now. She gave him purpose, something beyond survival. But shadows never stayed far. One evening, Marcus returned from scavenging to find Lyra trembling, her eyes wide with fear. She pointed to the window. Someone had been there, watching. A footprint in the dust proved it. Marcus's jaw tightened. Their refuge was no longer invisible. He closed the door firmly and sat beside her. "Don't worry, I won't let them take you." Her hand gripped his sleeve, her voice breaking. "They will never stop hunting me. You should let me go. I bring danger." Marcus shook his head fiercely. "No, you are not alone anymore. I said I would protect you, and I will." Tears filled her eyes. For the first time, she reached out and placed her hand gently over his. The touch was fragile, trembling, yet full of meaning. In that broken cabin among the ruins, something unspoken passed between them, an understanding that neither could walk this road without the other. The struggle was not over. In truth, it was only beginning. But in that moment, Marcus knew one thing. He would fight no matter how hard it became to give her and her children a chance at life. And as the night closed in again, the cabin no longer felt like an abandoned ruin. It felt like the first fragile step toward home. The sky above. The ruined district had been restless all day. Heavy clouds gathered, thick and dark, pressing down over the colony like a weight. By evening, the first rumble of thunder rolled across the horizon. Marcus stood in the doorway of the cabin, staring at the sky. He had lived through many storms, but this one felt different. Angry, almost alive. Behind him, Lyra shifted on the blanket, her hand gripping her stomach. She had been restless all day too. Her breathing was uneven and her face pale. Marcus noticed every movement, every sharp breath. Fear crawled into his chest. He had no doctor, no medicine, no midwife, only himself. As the first drops of rain hit the broken roof, Lyra let out a soft cry. Marcus rushed to her side. Her silver blue skin glistened with sweat. She clutched his arm, her voice shaking. "It is time. The children, they are coming." Marcus froze for a second, panic rushing through him. He had delivered cargo, fixed engines, even fought men twice his size. But this was different. This was life itself, fragile and demanding. He swallowed his fear and forced his voice to stay steady. "I'm here. I'll help you. Just breathe." The storm outside grew wild, rain pounding against the roof, wind howling through cracks in the walls. Lightning flashed, filling the cabin with white light. Lyra cried out again and Marcus's heart raced. He gathered rags, water, and anything clean he could find. His hands shook, But he had no choice but to act. Time blurred into a rhythm of her cries, his whispered reassurances, and the thunder outside. He guided her through the pain, holding her hand tightly whenever fear broke through her strength. She gritted her teeth, sweat dripping down her face, her body trembling with effort. "Stay with me, Lyra," Marcus said firmly. "You are stronger than this storm, stronger than anything out there." Her eyes, filled with both pain and determination, locked on his. For a moment, he saw a fire inside her, a mother's strength, fierce and unbreakable. She nodded weakly and pushed forward. Hours passed like minutes. At last, the first cry broke through the storm, a sharp, small sound that filled the cabin with light. Marcus held a tiny alien child in his arms, its skin faintly glowing like the mother's, its eyes tightly shut, its voice strong. His chest tightened, awe and disbelief flooding him. "You did it," he whispered, showing the child to Lyra, her tired face lit with tears of relief. She reached out, and Marcus placed the baby gently in her arms. But it was not over. Another wave of pain struck her. Marcus realized what it meant. The second child was coming. His heart pounded harder than the storm outside. "One more, Lyra, you can do this, hold on." The struggle repeated, fiercer this time. Marcus stayed by her side, wiping sweat from her face, gripping her hand, whispering words of strength. The storm outside reached its peak, thunder shaking the ground, lightning tearing across the sky. Then, another cry, softer, but just as alive. Marcus lifted the second twin, smaller than the first, yet breathing, fighting, alive. Tears filled his eyes. He had never thought he would see this moment, never thought his hands would bring life into the world. Lyra collapsed back, exhausted, but smiling weakly. Marcus placed both children in her arms. She cradled them, whispering in her alien tongue, tears sliding down her cheeks. The storm still raged outside, but inside the cabin peace bloomed. For the first time, Marcus allowed himself to breathe. He looked at Lyra, at the two small lives resting against her, and he felt something shift inside him. These children were not his by blood, but in his heart he already knew they were his responsibility. The storm began to ease, the thunder moving away, the rain softening into a steady patter. Marcus sat close, watching over them. He brushed a strand of wet hair from Lyra's face and whispered, "They're beautiful." She looked at him, her eyes shining even through her exhaustion. "They live because of you." Marcus shook his head. "No, because of you. You fought for them. I only stood beside you." Her hand, trembling, reached out and touched his. It was a small gesture, but in it lay trust, gratitude, and something unspoken. The night slowly gave way to dawn. Light spilled through the broken window, touching the faces of the newborn twins. Their small chests rose and fell, steady and strong. Marcus felt warmth in his chest, a feeling he had almost forgotten. Hope. The world outside was still dangerous. The guards might come again. Hunger and struggle would not disappear. But none of it mattered in this moment. What mattered was here, in this broken cabin. A mother, her two children, and the human who had chosen to stand with them. Marcus leaned against the wall, exhausted but awake. His eyes never left them. He knew the storm outside would always return, in one form or another. But now he also knew he had something worth fighting every storm for. And as the newborn twins stirred in their mother's arms, the first fragile threads of a family began to weave together, threads that no storm could ever tear apart. Morning sunlight crept slowly across the ruined cabin, painting the walls in pale gold. Marcus sat by the doorway, his eyes heavy from staying awake all night. Every few minutes he glanced back at Lyra and the two newborns curled against her. They were so small, their faint breaths almost lost in the silence, yet their presence filled the entire room with life. For the first time in years, Marcus felt the weight of something new on his shoulders. Responsibility. Not for himself, not for survival alone, but for them. A mother and 2 children who now depended on him. The thought both frightened him and gave him strength. Lyra stirred awake, her tired eyes falling on Marcus. She whispered, "You did not sleep?" He shrugged. "Couldn't. Someone had to keep watch." She smiled faintly. "You guard us like family." The word family struck him harder than any blade. He turned away, clearing his throat. Maybe it's time I tried to be one. The days that followed were filled with struggle. Marcus scavenged every corner of the colony's outskirts, gathering food, clean water, and scraps of wood to keep the cabin standing. He built a small fire pit inside, using it to keep the room warm. He patched holes in the roof with metal sheets he dragged from abandoned warehouses. Every evening he returned to find Lyra rocking the twins, whispering alien lullabies. Though her body was still weak, her spirit was stronger than ever. She clung to her children with fierce love, her eyes glowing when she looked at them. Marcus often found himself stopping at the doorway, watching quietly. There was something beautiful in the way she held them, something that softened even his rough heart. Yet survival was never simple. Food ran short often, and Marcus had to risk trips into the market where whispers about the runaway alien still circled. He kept his hood low, traded quietly, and avoided questions. More than once he felt eyes on him, as though someone suspected. He knew danger was never far. One night, when the fire had burned low, Lyra spoke softly. "Why do you stay, Marcus? You could leave us. You owe me nothing." Marcus sat across from her, sharpening a dull knife he had found. He looked up, meeting her silver-blue gaze. "I don't stay because I owe you. I stay because it's right. And because—" He paused, struggling for words. "Because I want to." Lyra blinked, her eyes glistening. She looked down at the twins sleeping in her arms. "Then you are part of us now." The words warmed him, though he said nothing. He simply nodded, hiding the flicker of emotion behind his rough expression. Weeks turned into months. The twins grew stronger, their cries filling the cabin, their tiny hands clutching at Marcus's fingers. He learned how to hold them, how to feed them, how to calm them when they wailed through the night. At first he was clumsy, unsure, but soon he discovered a strange comfort in their presence. Their laughter, soft, innocent, became his greatest reward. Lyra began to smile more often. She spoke of her people, of the home she had lost, of the cruel hands that had taken her freedom. Marcus listened silently, his anger simmering each time she described her pain. He wanted to tell her she would never be alone again, but the words stayed trapped in his throat. Instead, he let his actions speak. Every day, every risk, every sacrifice was his silent promise. Still, the shadow of danger always lingered. One evening, Marcus returned late, his cloak torn, his face cut. He had fought off men who recognized him. When Lyra saw him bleeding, her eyes filled with fear. She rushed to his side, cleaning the wound with trembling hands. "You cannot keep doing this," she whispered. "They will kill you." Marcus winced but held her gaze. "If they come, let them. I'd rather die fighting for you and the children than live walking away." Her hands stilled. Tears welled in her eyes, falling onto his skin. She leaned closer, whispering, "You are not just a human to us anymore. You are hope." Marcus said nothing, but inside her words burned like fire. He had once been a wanderer with no purpose. Now, every step, every breath carried meaning. He was not just surviving, he was living. For them. That night, when the twins stirred and cried, Marcus rose before Lyra could move. He cradled the smaller child gently, humming softly. His deep voice was unsteady, but the baby calmed in his arms. Lyra watched from her blanket, her lips curling into a smile. In that moment, Marcus realized something. He had not only saved a mother and her children, he had built something new. It was fragile like glass, threatened by shadows and hunger, but it was real. A family. The storm of the world outside had not ended. They would face more battles, more struggles. But in that cabin, with the crackling fire, the soft breathing of the twins, and Lyra's tired but gentle smile, Marcus knew one truth. This was the beginning of a new life. Not just for Lyra, not just for her children, but for him too. And though he would never admit it aloud, deep inside, Marcus had already accepted the role that fate had given him. He was no longer only a rescuer. He was becoming something greater, something he never thought he would be. He was becoming a father. The seasons shifted slowly, marking the quiet passage of years. The ruined cabin, once a fragile shelter, grew into something stronger. Marcus's hands rebuilt its walls, sealed the roof, and carved a small garden into the dry ground outside. It was not much, but it was enough to keep them alive. The twins grew quickly. Their silver-blue skin glowed faintly under the sun, their laughter echoing through the broken streets that had once been silent. Marcus often watched them chase each other around the yard, their small feet kicking up dust, their voices filling the air with joy. He never thought he would live to see such a sight. But with joy came sacrifice. Marcus never let them see the weight he carried. Every day before dawn he left to scavenge or trade. He bartered with strangers, risked trips to the market, and sometimes fought men who looked at Lyra and the twins with greed in their eyes. He returned each night with cuts, bruises, or nothing but tired hands, yet he always brought something to keep the family going. Lyra knew. She saw the shadows under his eyes, the stiffness in his steps, the blood he tried to hide. Many times she begged him to rest, to let her take more of the burden. But Marcus only shook his head. "You need to stay here. They need you. I'll handle the rest." He carried that promise like armor. No matter how hard the days became, he never let them break him. The twins began to see him not only as their protector but also as their teacher. Marcus taught them how to plant seeds, how to build a fire, how to move quietly through dangerous streets. He showed them how to listen to the world, the wind, the footsteps, the signs of danger. He gave them the tools to survive, even if one day he could not be there. At night, when the children slept, Marcus often sat outside under the stars. The silence pressed around him, broken only by the distant hum of colony ships. He stared at the sky, wondering if he had done enough, if he could keep doing this. He thought of the years he had wasted before, wandering without purpose. Now every breath, every drop of sweat was spent for them. It was the hardest life he had ever lived, yet also the only one that mattered. There were close calls. One evening, a group of traders followed Marcus back to the district. They had seen the twins once and wanted to know more. Marcus led them away, his fists and courage the only weapons he had. He returned long after dark, bleeding and limping. But when he opened the cabin door and saw the children safe in Lyra's arms, he felt no regret. The twins grew old enough to ask questions. One night, the eldest looked at him with curious eyes. "Why do you work so hard for us? We are not like you." Marcus paused, his chest tightening. He looked at the boy, then at the girl curled beside Lyra. "Because family isn't about being the same. It's about never leaving each other behind." The child's eyes widened, as if the words planted something new in his heart. From that night on, both children followed Marcus more closely, eager to learn, eager to help. Still, Marcus never spoke of the sacrifices he made, the hunger he endured so the children could eat first. The nights he stayed awake, guarding them while his own body begged for rest, the scars hidden beneath his clothes, reminders of battles fought in silence. These were burdens he carried alone, never wanting them to feel the weight. Lyra knew, though. She watched him with quiet eyes, her heart torn between gratitude and sorrow. One night when the twins were asleep, she whispered, "You give everything and ask for nothing. Why?" Marcus sat by the fire, his rough hands turning a small piece of wood into a toy for the children. He did not look at her as he answered, "Because I don't know how else to live anymore. They need me, you need me, that's enough." Her eyes filled with tears, but she said nothing more. She simply reached out and touched his arm, the gesture soft but full of meaning. Years passed, and the twins grew taller, stronger, their voices sharper. They began calling him more than protector, more than teacher. Sometimes they slipped and called him Dad without thinking, their young voices carrying the word with innocence. Each time, Marcus felt something break and heal inside him at once. He never corrected them. He only smiled quietly and carried on. The sacrifices did not end. They never would. Marcus knew the world outside their fragile home was still dangerous. But when he looked at Lyra's smile, at the twins' laughter, he understood the truth. Every scar, every struggle, every silent sacrifice had been worth it. He was no longer just a wanderer, no longer just a man surviving. He had become the foundation of something greater. And though the world might never know his name, two children would always remember him as the man who gave everything for them. The years had carved lines into Marcus's face, but his strength remained. The cabin was no longer just a broken shelter. It had become a home. Flowers grew outside, the garden fed them, and laughter often filled the air. Yet Marcus always knew the peace was fragile. Danger never vanished, it only waited. That day came when the colony held its annual gathering, a festival of trade and unity. The district buzzed with voices, stalls, and music. Marcus never liked crowds, but the twins, now tall and bright-eyed, wanted to see it. Lyra encouraged him softly, saying it would be safe if they stayed together. Against his instincts, Marcus agreed. The four of them walked through the busy streets. People stared, whispering as the twins passed. Their silver-blue skin glowed under the sun, marking them as different. Some eyes were curious, some cold, but Marcus stayed close, his hand resting protectively on the boy's shoulder while Lyra held the girl's hand. At first, everything was calm. The children laughed at the stalls, tasted sweets, and watched, performers in awe. For Marcus, seeing their joy was worth the risk. But peace rarely lasted. Near the central square, a voice rose from the crowd, harsh, sharp. "That's her, the alien who escaped." Marcus's blood ran cold. He turned quickly, spotting an older trader, his face twisted with recognition. Guards moved through the crowd, their eyes locking onto Lyra. The whispers turned into shouts, and soon all eyes were on them. Marcus stepped in front of his family, his body tense. He had fought before, but this was different. Too many people, too many guards. His heart pounded. If they tried to take Lyra or the children, he would not survive the fight. The guards demanded, "Hand over the alien woman and her offspring. They don't belong here." The crowd murmured, some agreeing, others uncertain. The weight of judgment pressed down like stone. Lyra clutched the twins, her eyes wide with fear. Marcus's fists clenched. He wanted to fight, but he knew it could end with all of them dead. And then, before he could speak, the twins stepped forward. Their voices rose, clear and strong, cutting through the noise. "He is our father." The words stunned the crowd. The guards froze, blinking in surprise. Even Marcus stood still, his heart skipping a beat. The boy repeated, louder this time, his voice steady. "This human is our father. He saved our mother. He raised us. We belong with him." The girl, her eyes shining with courage, added, "We are his children. We call him Father, because no one else ever was." Silence fell over the square. Every eye turned toward Marcus. He felt the weight of their words sink deep into his chest. For years, he had carried the burden of sacrifice quietly, never asking for thanks, never demanding recognition. But now, spoken by the very children he had saved, the truth was out. Marcus looked at them, his throat tight. The pride in their eyes, the love in their voices, it was more powerful than any weapon. Lyra, standing behind them, pressed her hand to her mouth, tears streaming down her face. The guards hesitated. They had expected to capture an outcast, but instead they saw a family, bound not by blood, but by something stronger. The whispers in the crowd shifted. Some people nodded. Others murmured about the man who had chosen compassion over cruelty. One of the guards muttered, "This isn't worth it," and stepped back. The traitor shouted angrily, demanding they act, but the crowd's silence grew, heavy against him. No one moved to help him. Finally, the guards lowered their weapons. The traitor stormed away, defeated, and the tension slowly faded. The square filled again with voices, but the moment had already changed everything. Marcus dropped to one knee, facing the twins. His eyes burned, his voice breaking. "You didn't have to say that." The boy shook his head firmly. "It's the truth." The girl smiled softly. "You are our father. Always." Marcus's rough hands trembled as he pulled them into an embrace. For the first time, he let his tears fall, unashamed. The children clung to him, their voices whispering the word again and again. "Father." Lyra stepped closer, her own tears glistening in the sunlight. She laid her hand on Marcus's shoulder, her voice soft but steady. "They only spoke what I have always known. You are more than a protector. You are the heart of this family." The festival continued around them, but Marcus heard nothing. All he felt was the warmth of the children in his arms, the touch of Lyra's hand, and the echo of the words that had reshaped his life. He had once been a wanderer with no purpose. Now he was something else, something greater. He was a father. And though the galaxy beyond was still filled with shadows, Marcus knew that no storm, no cruelty, no threat could ever take this away, because the bond they shared was stronger than fear, stronger than blood, stronger than fate itself. The human who had saved a pregnant alien woman had found more than survival. He had found a family. And through the voices of two children calling him father, his place in the universe was sealed forever.